Could be an ugly one here. Michigan on the road at Maryland. These are two of the worst high major teams that I've seen consistently this year. Maryland is still seeking their first top 100 victory on the year. That's something Michigan can claim 3 of already under their belt. And I still think they're a significantly worse basketball team than Maryland. Brian Ralph, he checks CBB, is here to help us break it down. Brian, this is an ominous one to preview because Doug McDaniel rumored to potentially be academically ineligible. If those rumors are true, this is the first game that will take place. Nobody knows if they're true or not. We've talked about it at length on our channel. It's quiet. It's very quiet, as the Michigan program is in a lot of ways right now. Nobody really tells anyone anything of what's going on inside the walls there. I have an update on this that I'll save for later in the preview, but what are you expecting from the Wolverines in this game?
Not a lot, to be quite honest. Like, this program has been in a downward spiral the last month and a half, and I don't know where the bottom is. Like, I don't know where this is going to stop and things kind of stabilize. You could rely on someone like Doug McDaniel to have some games that he balls out and stabilizes things for Michigan, but if you don't have him, that hurts. And if he does play in this game, the battle between him and Jahmir Young is going to be a lot of fun. If he does not play, there are obviously more long-term concerns for Michigan than that. Michigan fans may not care as they're basking in the glow of the ugliest national championship game win I think I've seen in at least a year, considering what Georgia did to TCU last year. But anyway, now that turns in, like, that's an opening for Maryland, a Maryland team that has struggled mightily offensively, to have a major advantage in the backcourt. So from a Michigan perspective, like, I think you kind of need this game, because there's a real chance that whoever loses this game finishes in last in the Big Ten, which was blasphemous 2 months ago.
Yeah, from a Maryland perspective here, this is a must-win to save your season. You're 9-6. You're nowhere near the bubble. Like I said, you don't have a quality win anywhere right now, other than at UCLA, which honestly I think has a lot of parallels to what Michigan is going through right now. That's a team in disarray that is falling apart. Their head coach is shitting on everybody. I just feel like we've seen Maryland at least show up against a brand name school that doesn't seem to have a basketball pulse. Reminds me a lot of Michigan. It's a must-win game for Maryland because they go at Illinois, at Northwestern, home against Michigan State in their next 3 after this. And look, you think they can protect home court maybe against Michigan State. They definitely should be able to protect home court against Michigan. But if they don't, now they've lost 3 straight and you're going at Illinois, at Northwestern next week. That's terrifying. They could be 500 sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And Maryland, I think, in comparison to Michigan, at least has something of an identity. It's not a good identity, but Jahmir Young is good. Julian Reese is going to contribute for you and produce. It's been everybody else being awful. And so anything else that, like, the others can provide, the role players, is a bonus. If you shoot more than 25% from 3, that's a bonus, but you at least know you have a bona fide stud in Jahmir Young, and you know that Julian Reese is going to put up good numbers for you, right? Anything you can get more than that is gravy, but I think we kind of know from Maryland at this point that they're just not that good. The difference between the two is that they have at least established a baseline that Michigan hasn't yet.
Yeah, 100%. It's scary for Michigan when you go through the positions, and the position you feel like you have the best matchup in is Terrence Williams against nobody at the 3 for Maryland, essentially. But Maryland has the 2 best bigs in this game on paper, Julian Reese and Dante Scott. And look, I'm not necessarily afraid of those guys. Julian Reese went 0 against Purdue. I mean, I don't know how a guy that was a preseason all-conference guy that's as experienced as he is can show up against the best player in the conference and not score. That's a really bad look for Maryland. But the thing is, they have other guys who don't score even more consistently than that. Like Deshaun Harris-Smith has just been an abject disaster on the year. And I'll take a massive L here. I was so high on him coming into the year. I had him as my freshman of the year pick. I thought he could be a potential freshman All-American type guy. And it's why I was really high on Maryland. In reality, he started the year okay. Like, he had a couple 12, 13-point performances. He looked like he was, kind of still finding his footing, but he could at least impact the game. Since November, going back all the way, he has one game where he scored double figures. I mean, one of his last 10, he scored double figures. He can't shoot the basketball at all.
No, they needed him to contribute in a big way offensively and be that secondary perimeter scoring option. They were counting on that. He has not been that, and he's not been a shooter by any stretch of the imagination. That was something they were hoping he could provide. The same thing goes for Jamie Kaiser. They were hoping he would provide some shooting for them and some spacing. That hasn't happened. They took Jordan Geronimo in the transfer portal, knowing he was not a shooter, but figured that he could provide some production. And he has had to play more than I think Kevin Willard wanted him to play, because he at least provides some defense and experience. And if you're not going to have shooting from guys who are supposed to give you shooting, you might as well have some of the other things that those freshmen have not given you. Noah Batchelor also is supposed to provide shooting, hasn't provided shooting. Like all the guys who they were like, okay, we need you to take steps forward, and at the very least, you'll provide us with shooting and spacing. Haven't even provided the shooting and spacing that Maryland thought they were going to get. So as a result, like there are no answers, because all the potential answers they thought they were going to have aren't there. It's like they were given the answer key for a different test than what's actually happening.
Yeah, 100%. It's a crazy thing to watch, because you, like with Michigan, I think you can watch them fail and you can come away being like, okay, they have obvious roster limitations. I don't feel that way with Maryland. Like I watch Maryland struggle and I'm like, that's more or less the same team that I thought was really good at the end of last season. And it shows how important the role players or the peripheral guys really are to a perfect puzzle. If you have one piece that's off and it's not working, the puzzle's never going to become complete. With all of that said, if Doug McDaniel doesn't play in this game, Maryland is going to win this game by 15 plus. Like, I don't care how bad they've been. I don't care how little they can shoot the ball. Look, this is a guy, Brian, who has had to play 40 minutes a game.
Oh, yeah.
Even though his status has been up in the air, just to carry Michigan to losses against McNeese and Penn State. Like, he can't come off the floor. And now you take him off the floor. Like, they're going to turn to George Washington III, who hasn't played in a month, or Jalen Llewellyn, who can't walk right now. I don't know what they do. Like, they don't have enough healthy bodies to even play a full game with a point guard if Doug's not on the floor.
This is what I talk about with Michigan, not necessarily knowing where the bottom is, because things could get laughably bad. Laughably bad. And I hope that's not the case, because I do think there are some talented pieces on this Michigan team. But it's very clear during this last month that everything around this program is negative. Body language is down. They're not sharing the ball the same way. They're not shooting the same way. They're not playing with the same effort, intensity, the same care. It's almost like everyone is waiting for the season to be over and for it to be January 10th when we're recording this. And that's the feeling, is we're waiting for the season to be over. And that's coming from your roster. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, 100%. I've said it last week, but if basketball was not a competitive sport, Michigan would be very, very good at it. But it is a competitive sport. And those talented pieces don't mean much when the competition level just isn't there, the depth isn't there, and now you're going to take out the heart of the team. So I said I have a Doug McDaniel update. This is not a report by any means, but it's an update. Heard this from a few folks that I trust today. There is hope that Doug will not be ruled out for the season by the time this game tips off, but they do not expect him to play in this game. Now, whatever mental gymnastics you have to do on what that means, by all means do them. I certainly don't understand it, because my understanding of the academic rules at Michigan are, if you failed the semester, you're out for the next semester. So this update seems to indicate maybe he was not officially failing the end of the semester. Maybe there is a smaller academic issue going on that could resolve itself before the end of the year. Either way, like I said, two disconnected sources gave me the information. They don't expect him to play. They don't know if that means out for the season anymore or not. And knowing Juwan Howard, we're not going to get the update. Like if Doug McDaniel doesn't play in this game, his name's just going to appear on the injury report before the game as out.
Yep. Yeah. And now Michigan wants potentially bend its academic standards for basketball player. Didn't want to do it for Caleb Love, but Doug McDaniel keeping him eligible for maybe a game or two will do the trick. I don't want to throw around this word lightly, but I this just reeks of incompetence and clown showness. Like, have some clarity, have some firm rules, and maybe that's being said behind closed doors, and we're all just left on the outside guessing. But if this is as chaotic inside the program as it seems to be outside, I think that's very indicative of where the Juwan Howard tenure is at right now.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to get ugly. It already is ugly. It will get uglier. Let's do a formal prediction in this game. I think you almost have to predict whether or not he plays in order to make a prediction. I'll go first just to tee you up with where my head's at. I think Doug will not play in this game. I'll be shocked if he does. And with Doug McDaniel out of this game, I think Maryland wins by 26 points. What is your prediction, Brian?
I don't think Maryland's good enough offensively to win anything by 26 points. If Doug doesn't play, I think Maryland wins, and think it's probably by 9, 10, 11, right? If Doug plays, I still think Maryland wins, but it's more like 5.
Okay. At the very least, it would be fun to watch Doug McDaniel, DMV kid, by the way, against Jameer Young in Maryland. So fingers crossed. Miracles happen, ladies and gentlemen. We have 24 hours to see what sort of tomfoolery is happening with the University of Michigan next. That's Brian Ralph from Heat Check CBB. I'm GregWaddell. We will have a recap up of this game later this week. Tune into the Sleepers Media YouTube channel. Click subscribe so you don't miss any of it.